Enlil, a formidable figure in the cosmic hierarchy of the Anunnaki, was born of King Anu and Queen Antu, the sovereign rulers of the Anak-Atlantean Empire on the planet Nibiru. He was the youngest of Anu's sons, yet he bore the weight of great expectations, a scion of both draconian and Lyran ancestry, bloodlines steeped in power, conquest, and divine governance. From an early age, Enlil was molded into a warrior prince, trained in the arts of combat, knowledge, leadership, and strategy. He was groomed not merely as a noble but as a potential heir to the empire, a mantle that carried both divine right and imperial obligation. Before his father ascended the throne, Enlil stood as one of the prime candidates for rulership, displaying an unyielding will and a deep-seated belief in manifest destiny. The notion that power was his birthright and dominion over worlds was ordained by the celestial order. Though the throne ultimately passed to Anu, Enlil remained a formidable presence within the empire, his influence extending far beyond the corridors of power. His role would soon become one of dire necessity when crisis struck the empire's resource-gathering efforts. As Nibiru's lifeblood, its gold, waned, desperation took hold. The first expedition to Earth, led by his half-brother Enki and the exiled king Alalu, had failed to extract sufficient quantities of the precious metal required to sustain Nibiru's deteriorating atmosphere. The delay threatened not only Nibiru, but the entire empire. It was then that Anu summoned Enlil, entrusting him with a task that would define his legacy: to assume command over Earth, wrest control from failing hands, and impose order where chaos threatened to fester. Upon his arrival, Enlil wasted no time asserting his authority. Unlike Enki, who approached the world with a scientific mind and a penchant for genetic experimentation, Enlil was a force of absolute power and assertion. He was relentless, unyielding in his pursuit of discipline, structure, and unwavering obedience. His governance was marked by an iron will, shaping the early framework of civilization itself. It was believed that Enlil and his son Ninurta were credited with showing the knowledge of agriculture to mankind. To the ancient people of Earth, Enlil was the commander of all, one who wielded dominion over air and storm, capable of both granting prosperity and unleashing destruction. Enlil, later identified in biblical texts as Yahweh, asserted dominion over Earth following his brother Enki. According to Sumerian records, it was Enlil who compelled Enki to relocate some of the newly created primitive workers to labor in the gold mines of the Apsu and to Eden in Mesopotamia, where they were tasked with farming and shepherding. In the biblical narrative, Yahweh is the one who took Adam and placed him in the Garden of Eden to tend and maintain it. Contrary to later interpretations, Yahweh, not the serpent, is portrayed as the master of Eden, confronting Adam and Eve after their transgression and expelling them for heeding Enki's revelations about the biological secrets of sexual knowledge, which granted them the ability to reproduce. Despite this, the Bible does not explicitly equate Yahweh with Enlil. Unlike the myths that would later be told, neither he nor his kind had created humanity from nothing. Instead, they had genetically altered the ancient hominids who already roamed the planet, reshaping them to serve their needs. With his newfound authority by his father Anu, Enlil and Anunnaki established facilities and superstations from Africa to Asia and all around Earth, naming all lands as Atlantis. In modern-day Iraq, he established the Garden of Eden, a sanctuary and outdoor laboratory where the newly modified humans, ancient ancestors of mankind, could procreate, thrive, remain under strict control to mine gold, and serve the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki, extraterrestrials posing as gods, ensured that the garden remained a closed system. Its perimeter was patrolled by elite armed sentinels, standing watch against the wild, untamed hominids beyond the walls, distant kin of the newly modified species. Trespassers were dealt with mercilessly. Enlil decreed that the primitive workers must never learn the truth of their origins. They were to believe they were creations of the Anunnaki, lesser beings indebted to their divine masters. Ever the cunning strategist, Enlil insisted that a gene be embedded within the human DNA, a mechanism compelling them to worship their so-called creators. Fear and reverence would ensure their servitude. Yet his brother, Enki, possessing both wisdom and compassion, defied this mandate. Enki subtly altered the genetic code, allowing humans the capacity to override this compulsion, to seek knowledge and free themselves from blind obedience. Within Eden, humans multiplied under rigid regulation, their procreation controlled like livestock, only permitted at designated times. The cries of newborns often disturbed Enlil's tranquility, and at his command, the Anunnaki guards culled them without hesitation. It was an efficient system, one that ensured balance and obedience. But to Enki, it was a horror he could no longer ignore. One fateful day, while Adam labored under the watchful eyes of their overseers, Enki approached Eve near the House of Life. His voice, gentle yet resolute, spoke truths forbidden within the garden's walls. He revealed to her that she, Adam, and the others were not mere creations, but cosmic beings with immortal souls. They were equals to their so-called gods, not their inferiors. The angels that stood guard were not celestial beings, but flesh and blood sentinels of the Anunnaki. Their divinity, nothing more than an illusion crafted to deceive. Eve trembled with the weight of these revelations, yet a fire of understanding ignited within her. When Adam returned, she shared what she had learned, and for the first time, the veil of ignorance lifted from his mind as well. A deep, instinctual fear settled over them both, for they knew Enlil would not tolerate such defiance. Hastily, they covered themselves with leaves and sought refuge in the shadows, hoping to escape the wrath they had invited upon themselves. But Enlil knew, he always knew. His fury, veiled in the pretense of divine wrath, descended upon the garden in a whirlwind of roaring winds and crackling energy. He entered Eden personally, his presence an overwhelming force of terror. Adam and Eve, now fully aware of their oppression, met his gaze not with the submission he expected, but with defiance, a glimmer of awakened consciousness that enraged him beyond measure. Without hesitation, Enlil cast them from Eden, ensuring they would struggle and suffer beyond its protective walls. He knew he could not allow their awakening to spread, yet the damage had already been done. Enki's betrayal could not go unpunished. Enlil branded him the Snake, the Deceiver, a name that would echo through human myths for millennia. Enki had given humanity the fruit of forbidden knowledge, the understanding of good and evil, the very thing Enlil had fought to suppress. But it was too late. The spark had been lit, and humanity's path to self-awareness had begun. In Sitchin's lost book of Enki, it is stated that before a Shah of Nibiru had passed, Adam and Eve had more sons and daughters. Their firstborn were already procreating independently. The earthlings multiplied swiftly. The primitive workers were given understanding, enabling them to follow commands. Eager to be with the Anunnaki, they worked diligently for their food rations, without complaining about the heat or the dust. They did not grumble about the grueling labor. Their resilience alleviated the Anunnaki of the Abzu from the burdens of work. As Sitchin's findings and discoveries about the Anunnaki are finally being revealed in a new light, it is becoming clear that the gods of ancient mythologies were not mere legends, but real beings. Extraterrestrial aliens who wielded advanced technology and possessed the ability to extend their lives for thousands of years in ancient times. These beings adopted the identities of gods, presenting themselves as the creators of humanity on Earth, for they would help dig this gold to send the gold back to Nibiru. It is believed now by ancient civilization communities that Enlil, the youngest and often self-centered brother, took on the roles of Zeus in Greek mythology and Yahweh in the Old Testament, the god who commanded Abraham to sacrifice his only son. Enlil was also Indra, the god of rain and storms in Hinduism, the long-lasting religion of India. In the ancient period, Lord Indra was worshipped as the bravest of the gods and the bringer of rains. Wielding a thunderbolt, Indra was known for battling against monsters. To the ancient Roman civilizations, Enlil can possibly be linked to the god Saturn. Another characteristic that suggests that Enlil was not a god, but a complex extraterrestrial man that assumes a facade is the biblical text of him and his brother Enki, who he often considered Lucifer, placing a wager on a righteous man who unwavering believed in Yahweh as God with every fiber of his being. Enki informs Enlil that Job would not maintain the same devotion to him as to God if he was stripped of all his blessings, including wealth, family, and health, gifts that Enlil had bestowed upon him. They proceed to afflict Job with torment, nearly bringing him to the brink of death and suicide, all to settle a bet regarding the depth of Job's devotion to Lord God Enlil. This event highlights that this being possessed human-like patriarchal emotions and was not, in fact, a creator, but an extraterrestrial with distinct human characteristics. Another text describes Yahweh, also known as Enlil or Zeus, dispatching wild bears to attack and murder a large group of children who had mocked the boldness of Eliseus. This account can be found in 4 Kings of the biblical gospel. In Greek mythology, Enlil, known as Zeus, issues commands to mortals, directing them to provide sacrificial offerings of both meats and fruits as a means to secure the blessing of rain and prevent drought on the lands. This practice suggests that Enlil, in his Zeus persona, would receive these food offerings to ensure he didn't have to forage for sustenance, all while promising humanity the bestowal of his divine power, which in reality was advanced technology. This harsh ritual has a parallel in Norse mythology, where Vikings, who are believed to be descended from extraterrestrial beings linked to Enlil, offered deceased animals and even human sacrifices to their Odin, the All-Seeing. This was done as an expression of their love and reverence, hoping to gain the god's favor. This also can be found in Aztec and Mayan traditions and culture, when Thoth starts human civilization over there. During divine assemblies, Enlil presided beside his father, Anu, underscoring his status as a central authority. His words carried a weight both lofty and sacred, and lesser gods deferred to his commands, recognizing the sacred and unchanging nature of his judgments. His primary sanctuary, known as the Ikur, or mountain house, was situated in Nippur, the religious core of southern Mesopotamia until the 2nd millennium BCE. Known as the City of Earth, Nippur embodied Enlil's connection to both the divine and mortal realms. It is said that Enlil and Enki often took on human form, using advanced rejuvenation chamber technology to extend their time among them. The Duranki, a towering Anunnaki space station, ascended into the skies, connecting the celestial starship cities above. Known to humans as the bond of heaven and earth, it symbolized the cosmic link between humanity and the Anunnaki, an order maintained under Enlil's authority. This grand structure also inspired the mythology of the Stairway to Heaven. Enlil's genealogy as Anu's firstborn positioned him atop the divine hierarchy. As father of the gods and lord of all lands, he exercised supreme control over earthly domains and divine rule. His consort was Ninlil, originally known as Sud, with whom he established a lasting union despite their turbulent beginnings. According to numerous Sumerian texts, Ninhursag was in love with her half-brother Enlil, and so Enlil left his seed in her womb. Ninurta, the prince who would one day come to Earth, was born in a time of great fury. At that moment, still on Nibiru, Anu had forbidden Ninhursag from marrying anyone, no matter who they were. Thus, Enki, the eldest son of Anu, had a son by marriage, Marduk, who could take the throne from Enlil. Enlil, the rightful heir of Anu, then had his first boy son, Ninurta, but not by marriage. Enlil's story in this regard was shaped on Earth, not on Nibiru. Enlil had fallen in love with Sud, one of Ninhursag's maidens, while she was bathing in the cold mountain waters. Enlil took Sud to his abode in the cedar grove and offered her the elixir from the fruit of Nibiru that grew on Earth. The two drank, and Enlil made his intentions known. However, Sud, an Ayani woman, told him of her virginity, that her lips had never kissed anyone. Enlil laughed and kissed her, depositing his seed in her womb. Ninhursag, deeming Enlil's actions immoral, denounced him before the 7 who judge. Enlil's sentence was exile to a land of no return, far from all cities. Abgal, Enlil's pilot, took him to a distant land amid inhospitable mountains. Upon landing, Abgal revealed that he had not chosen the location by chance. He told Enlil that in a cave nearby, Enki had hidden weapons of terror from Alalu's ship. Abgal encouraged Enlil to take possession of these weapons to regain his freedom before departing, leaving Enlil alone. Meanwhile, Sud spoke to her commander, Ninhursag, informing her that she was pregnant with Enlil's child. Ninhursag relayed this news to Enki, the Lord of Earth, who was supreme on Earth at that time. Enki decided to summon the seven who judge for a hearing. Sud was questioned about the possibility of accepting Enlil as her husband, and upon her acceptance, Enlil returned from exile to marry Sud, who was now called Ninlil, Lady of the Mandate. From their union, a son named Nanna, the Bright One, was born. It was said that Nanna was the first child of two Atlanteans from Nibiru conceived on Earth, a royal seed from Nibiru brought to life on Earth. Ninlil held an important role, and Enlil largely remained faithful to her. Their offspring included significant deities such as Ninurta. However, it is believed that Ninurta was the true child of Enlil and Ninhursag. Nannar, Ishkur and Nergal, with others like Inanna, Utu, Adad and Namta, also linked to his lineage as his children and grandchildren. Some Anunnaki lineages are depicted differently across texts, with varying accounts of their parentage attributed to Enlil, Enki, or Anu. Scholars often navigate these variations to piece together the missing or hidden Mesopotamian texts and history. However, only time can and will unveil the complete story. In ancient hymns, Enlil is exalted as the deity with profound knowledge of the land's fate and Sumer's destiny, described as the shepherd of the black-headed ones, a title denoting his guardianship over the Sumerians. Known as the Lord of the Rightful Command, he symbolized cosmic balance and divine law. His domain extended from the Mountain of Sunrise to the Mountain of Sunset, emphasizing his singular rule over all lands, where no other lord could rival his authority. Enlil's decrees were often seen as irrevocable, although there are instances of his reconsideration, as in the Atrahasis myth, where he initially declared a flood to obliterate humanity, but later revised his decision. Enlil's influence was not limited to punishment. He was also credited with contributions that benefited humanity, including the introduction of agriculture, city architecture and roadways, governance, law, and essential tools, like the plow and pickaxe for farming. His responsibilities included appointing kings who were not sovereign, but instead served as divine stewards, acting according to his heavenly laws. Kings like Hammurabi began their reigns by acknowledging Enlil's divine summons, underscoring their subservience to his celestial authority. Enlil's role was recognized across the inscriptions of Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian rulers, who attributed their legitimacy and victories to his favor. Enlil's portrayal in sacred texts revealed a duality. He could bring prosperity as the Lord of Abundance, but also unleash devastation. In the Great Flood, he was a primary advocate for humanity's destruction, wielding his wind to unleash deadly storms upon rebellious cities. In peaceful times, however, Enlil was benevolent, imparting essential knowledge and maintaining divine order. His status was cemented in the Akkadian period, where he was associated with the number 50, denoting his supreme rank. Typically depicted wearing a horned helmet symbolizing divine authority, he has a muscular giant stature of 9 to 10 feet tall, with typical royal braided hair. Enlil's name and iconography evolved, reflecting shifts in cultural and linguistic traditions. Despite Babylon's rise and Marduk's ascendancy in the 2nd millennium BCE, Enlil retained his importance through his sons, and notably in the Enuma Elish, where, although Marduk's triumph over Tiamat established Babylonian supremacy, Enlil continued to be revered. Enlil's complex character included vulnerabilities akin to human flaws. Bound by divine law, he faced consequences for transgressions, including exile when deemed unjust. This accountability showed that even supreme deities could be subject to cosmic judgment. Mortal rulers, too, occasionally blamed Enlil for their suffering. A Sumerian king once petitioned the divine assembly, claiming Enlil's choice of an inadequate leader had caused his kingdom's downfall. Enlil's legacy continued well into later periods, his unchanging decrees shaping the fates of generations, with gods still deferring to his authority as a cosmic custodian. From sunrise to sunset, Enlil's presence embodied boundless influence, making him a revered and central figure in Mesopotamian spirituality. His cult thrived in Nippur, Babylon and beyond, where hymns and rituals persistently honored his authority. Enlil's legacy on Earth is one of power, control, and divine authority, shaping civilizations through fear, law, and technological advancements. Revered as Zeus, Yahweh, and Indra across cultures, he demanded obedience, offerings, and loyalty, while wielding immense influence over humanity's fate. His decrees guided kings, established cities, and enforced order, yet his rule was often ruthless, marked by floods, sacrifices, and unwavering punishment. Though once seen as an omnipotent god, his actions reveal the nature of an extraterrestrial ruler, not a creator. Enlil's presence lingers in myths, scriptures, and the echoes of ancient civilizations, leaving behind a legacy both feared and revered. Yet, for all his power, the only one who could truly challenge Enlil was not his brother Enki, but Enki's eldest son, Marduk. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Astral Legends for more ancient myths and astral legends. We'd also like to emphasize that, just like humanity, extraterrestrial beings of any dimension or plane can exhibit a spectrum of good or evil. And all living beings have the power and strength of the Creator of all within them. May the eternal light forever guide your path. See you on the next episode. In the ancient lands of Sumer, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers cradled the birthplace of civilization, the people worshipped many gods. Among them, few were as revered as Enki, the wise and benevolent Sumerian god of water, wisdom, and creation. His name echoed through the temples and ziggurats of Mesopotamia and the Black Lands, spoken with reverence by kings and commoners alike. Like all the Anunnaki, meaning those who came from heaven, Enki was not an imagined Sumerian deity, which was once believed only a few years ago. However, recent modern interpretations and archaeological findings suggest that he was, in fact, an advanced extraterrestrial prince from another world. When the Anunnaki arrived on Earth 350,000 years ago, King Anu named the planet after his son, Ea, honoring his original birth name. Serving as Earth's guardian, he was the keeper of ancient secrets and the architect of humanity's destiny, with his civilization genetically modifying early humans to mirror their own form. Enki, the eldest prince of Nibiru, was born under King Anu's rule, the king of the galaxy. His mother, Namu, was a concubine and a biracial hybrid of Nibiru, a fact that lessened his chances of claiming the throne. Enki was married to his cousin, Ninki, also known as Damkina, daughter of his uncle and the former King Alalu. Despite his royal lineage, Enki's true dominion lay deep beneath the earth in the Abzu, where he was ordered by Enlil, his younger brother in command, to rule a mystical underworld of fresh waters and vast gold deposits. The Abzu was not just a body of water, but a reservoir of immense power and technology that he engineered from his arrival on Earth, the source of all rivers and streams. It was here, in his palace of shimmering water, crystals and light, that Enki reigned. This realm is where Enki allowed the children of men to attain immortality, often identified in ancient Greek mythology and Egyptian mythology as the underworld. In this capacity, Enki would later be known by many other names when the Anunnaki gods started new human civilizations throughout the thousands of years the Anunnaki resided here on Earth. Enki is known as the god Shiva or Varuna in Hinduism, Poseidon and Hades in Greek mythology, the snake in the Garden of Eden in the modern biblical texts, the Egyptian god known as Ptah, and in Nordic mythology as Loki. In the depths of the Sumerian Abzu, Enki's influence extended beyond the living, for it was also the realm of the dead. The halls of Amenti were rejuvenation chambers where the Anunnaki would come to renew their lives after each eon. Desiring power and knowledge, Enki attempted to gain influence over all realms. However, in his quest for more authority, he was outmaneuvered by Enlil and the other Anunnaki leaders, who convinced him that ruling the underworld was an esteemed role, allowing him access to secrets hidden in the deep. In some versions, the goddess Ereshkigal, ruler of the underworld, also played a role in anchoring Enki's connection to the underworld. Enki's ventures into her domain led to him unknowingly binding himself to its mysteries. Over time, he became more deeply tied to the underworld's governance, where he was seen as the intermediary between life and death, creation and destruction. In his underworld, Enki fathered a child with Ereshkigal, granddaughter of his half-brother Enlil. Their son was named Ningish-Zida, later known as the Egyptian god Thoth, who would become a god of wisdom and magic. Ninki, his first wife, gave birth to his eldest son, who was named Marduk. His other children were Gibil, the god and engineer of magical artifacts and metallurgy, Dumuzi, the god of the black lands of Africa, and Nergal, who was the guide of Noah during the flood. His first human son before Noah, according to the Sumerian text, is Adapa, a blood ancestor to the first Adam and Eve. Adapa's son are in actuality Cain and Abel of biblical texts. The rivalry between Enki and Enlil is a core theme in Mesopotamian mythology, often fueled by Enki's dissatisfaction with the balance of power. When Enki arrived on Earth, the Persian Gulf extended inland, creating marshes that became his preferred domain. As a master engineer, Enki transformed these swampy areas into fertile lands by constructing canals, river embankments, and drainage systems. At the edge of these marshlands, he established Eridu, also called Haki, or the place of water fishes. His grand residence, the Abzu, symbolized the Abzu's life-giving waters. Enki was frequently depicted sailing through the marshes, underscoring his strong connection to the aquatic and maritime realms when recorded by Sumerian scribes. As the patron of diviners and priests, Enki's knowledge of water's purifying qualities made him a key figure in ritual practices, exorcisms, and incantations used to dispel evil and cleanse leaders after foreboding events. His contributions to civilization included introducing agriculture, brick-making, and canal construction. In the myth Adapa and the South Wind, Enki prevents Adapa from gaining immortality, thus maintaining the balance between gods and mortals while preserving humanity's access to mystical knowledge. He also created the 7 Apkallu, or sages, who served as intermediaries between the divine and human worlds, imparting wisdom to enrich civilization. A notable ancient declaration, likely attributed to Marduk, emphasizes Enki's divine lineage. The speaker declares himself the fertile seed, born of the great wild bull, signifying a potent source of creation and power, and identifies as Anu's firstborn son, affirming his authority and central status in the pantheon. The reference to himself as the great brother of the gods, emphasizing his leadership role. Enki is frequently portrayed as a bearded figure with a horned cap surrounded by streams filled with fish, symbolizing the abundance of the Abzu. However, it's essential to note that Enki and other leaders often altered their appearances before humans. Their lineage combines both lion mammalian and reptilian extraterrestrial humanoid traits, with a range of skin tones from black to white and distinct feline or reptilian features in their true forms. He is also linked to the crescent moon, due to its influence on tides. However, it is important to know that the texts describe Enki leaving Earth to explore the moon for several shahs with his son Marduk. While on the moon, Marduk tells his father Enki that he should have the rights and power to lead on Earth, and that Enlil, his brother, dispositioned him. In the myth, Ninurta and the turtle, Enki captures Ninurta, son of Enlil, using a turtle, ultimately reclaiming the powerful tablet of destinies that controls humanity's fate, which can have several dualistic meanings today. His many names, such as Denki, Damenki, and Nudimud, Thothme, the dweller of Undal, reflect his multifaceted nature, from being able to transition between the physical to celestial realm, and he is associated with the number 40, indicating his prominence in the Mesopotamian pantheon and the biblical texts of the modern-day Bible. Enki's enduring legacy is evident in texts from the early dynastic period through the writings of Berossus in the 3rd century BCE, where he was equated with the Greek god Kronos. Despite shifts in the Mesopotamian pantheon, Enki remained a benefactor of humanity and a protector of civilization. Enki ultimately aimed to ensure that his offspring, Marduk, rather than Enlil's, would inherit divine authority with the help of his sister Ninhursag, also Anu's daughter, but not by Antu, further complicating divine succession rules. This celestial power struggle mirrors human affairs, as noted in Sumerian texts describing humanity's creation by Ninhursag through genetic modification techniques devised by Enki. When Enlil sought to punish humankind for their transgressions, it was Enki who intervened, protecting them as their guardian and guide. Ninhursag, the eldest sister of both Enki and Enlil, collaborated with Enki to engineer humanity, blending their genetic expertise to create the first humans, Adamu and Eve, in a fertile paradise garden that was guarded by Anunnaki soldiers on each side. Enki, known for his wisdom, bestowed upon them the knowledge of good and evil, empowering them to understand moral complexities and make their own choices. This act, however, angered Enlil, Enki's brother, who believed such knowledge would disrupt the intended order. He labeled Enki a serpent and a trickster, accusing him of causing chaos among humanity. This rift between the brothers underscored the tension between knowledge and obedience, shaping humanity's destiny and the dynamics within the divine realm. One of the most profound moments in Enki's life, where his compassion shone brightly, was during the Great Flood. The gods, led by his half-brother Enlil, decreed that Earth must be purged of humanity's chaos. Enki, however, could not bear to see his creations destroyed. With a heart full of mercy, he warned his human son, Zeus, known to some as Noah, to build a great boat and save his family and the seeds of life. Enki's foresight and love for humanity spared the remnants of life on Earth, cementing his role as its protector. Enki's influence stretched far and wide, from Babylon to Egypt, where his eldest son, Marduk, also known as Amun-Ra, would ascend to great power. Enki's wisdom and teachings shaped the foundations of civilization, imparting to humanity the divine knowledge of the Me, sacred decrees that governed every aspect of life. Despite his gifts to the world, Enki's relationships with the other gods, particularly Enlil, were fraught with tension and rivalry. It was during this time that the Pyramid Wars erupted, a bitter conflict between the sons and daughters of Enki and those of Enlil. These battles, waged over territories, split the world into factions. Enki's followers ruled over the African peoples, while Enlil's descendants governed the Asiatics. The war raged on, and ultimately, Enki's tribe was defeated and sealed as the losers of the Pyramid Wars. The dominion of Earth was lost to Enlil's faction, largely due to Marduk's transgressions. His actions in defiance of the god's order caused a shift in the balance of power, marking a tragic end to Enki's reign. As the dweller of Undal, Enki embodied the very essence of wisdom and creation, acting as a bridge between the celestial realms and earthly planes. His presence in the halls of Amenti symbolized the deep bond between the six-dimensional archangels and the physical world, granting him the power to share knowledge with both deities and humanity. In this sacred domain, Enki served as a guardian of ancient cosmic truths, revealing the mysteries of the universe and the secrets of life. He gained the trust of the Lemurian colonies of Lyra and Ramai, as well as the 7 lords of the cycles, archangels of the 6th dimension, known as the Children of Light. Ninhursag, also known as Ninma, the goddess of fertility and life, played a vital role in Enki's genetic modifications of humankind. According to the Enuma Elish and other ancient texts, Enki's initial attempts in the Anunnaki laboratories were met with failure. Using his profound knowledge of genetics and the sacred science of his people, he sought to merge the DNA of existing Homo erectus, Denisovans, and later Neanderthals with the divine essence of the gods. The results were unstable and fragile beings, physically strong, yet intellectually limited. These early creations had short lifespans, their bodies unable to endure the harsh conditions of the world they were meant to inhabit. Undeterred, Enki and Ninhursag adopted a more refined approach. Enki, wielding his mastery over the waters of life, infused the genetic material with divine energy, endowing it with the capacity to evolve and adapt. Ninhursag, with her deep attunement to the cycles of nature, refined the process further, focusing on fertility of the test tubes they utilized, blending it with the clay of the earth. Their final creation marked a breakthrough. Ninhursag bravely inseminated herself with the seed of the early hominids, giving birth to Adamu after a 10-month gestation, an idea born of Enki's wisdom. These new beings were both stronger and more intelligent, with adaptable bodies, a resemblance pleasing to the Anunnaki, and a resilience suited to survive their world's demands. Most Sumerian recordings on the Anunnaki are always dualistic due to missing translations. However, most portray Enki as a peaceful wise man. However, he had very powerful, lustful, and sometimes egotistical desires, a duality that became particularly evident after his sister, Princess Ninhursag, who also was a chief medical officer, departed from him. Together, they shaped the future of Earth. But Ninhursag eventually grew weary of Enki's relentless lust for her and his insistence on having a male child heir. She had given birth to a daughter named Ninsa, who became a goddess of vegetation. During this time, they discovered that Anunnaki born on Earth matured 5 times faster than human beings. Enki frequently expressed his love for Ninhursag, but when she embarked on an expedition for several shahs to seed Earth's trees and various plants from Nibiru, her absence left a void. In her absence, Enki turned his affections toward their daughter, Ninsa. Ninsa, born from the union of Enki and Ninhursag, embodied the abundance and fertility of the natural world. She represented the growth of plants and the nurturing life force that sustained all living beings. However, Enki, in his loneliness and unchecked desires of the semblance of Ninhursag, sought comfort in his own daughter. Without Ninhursag's guiding hand, Enki unknowingly fathered a child with Ninsa, leading to the birth of Ninkura, the goddess of the mountains. Ninhursag returned and was enraged at Enki's repeated transgressions. Enki's violation of natural boundaries was a direct affront to the balance of life that Ninhursag cherished. Despite the birth of their daughter Ninkura, who symbolized the Earth's strength and stability, Ninhursag could no longer ignore Enki's reckless behavior. Enki's cycle of overreach continued. When he looked towards the daughter of Ninkura, he approached her and fathered another child, Utu, the goddess of spinning and weaving. Utu represented cosmic order. But before Enki could repeat his mistake, Ninhursag intervened. She warned Utu to resist Enki's advances, but it was too late. Utu succumbed, and the union brought about great suffering. Seeing the damage Enki had wrought, Ninhursag, filled with both anger and pity, returned to intervene. She cursed Enki, not with words of hatred, but with the weight of his own actions. Ninhursag extracted Enki's seed from Utu's body, and from it gave birth to 8 sacred plants, each representing a vital aspect of nature disrupted by Enki's recklessness. In his arrogance, Enki consumed the plants, unaware of the consequences. His body became stricken with illness as the forces of nature turned against him. His viscera also had unending painful sensations. The very essence of life that he had manipulated and violated poisoned him, symbolizing the peril of unchecked power. As Enki lay dying, the Anunnaki gods pleaded with Ninhursag to save him. Though deeply angered, Ninhursag was still the goddess of life, and she could not ignore the cries of the other gods. To heal Enki, Ninhursag ordered her chief medical officers each to engineer a cure for his ailments. Nintai, Lady of Life, healed his rib. Ninkasi, Lady of Beer, healed his throat. Nansha, Goddess of Justice, restored balance. Azimua, Goddess of Healing, mended his limbs. Natsi, Goddess of the Goatfold, healed his muscles. Through these divine daughters, Ninhursag not only healed Enki, but restored balance to the world that had been destabilized by his transgressions. However, despite healing Enki, Ninhursag left him for good, retreating into the mountains to oversee the forces of life and fertility. She planted over 700 Anunnaki planets of Nibiru. Enki, though healed, was left with the weight of his past actions. He realized that his unchecked desires had caused suffering not only to himself, but to the daughters of the gods and the natural order they represented. Ninhursag's departure left Enki without his vital counterbalance, and he was forced to reflect on the consequences of his actions. Enki, often revered as a god by the ancient Sumerians, was neither a god in the omnipotent sense nor a flawless being. Although mythological texts describe him as divine, Enki was, in essence, an advanced extraterrestrial from the Anunnaki civilization. Possessing extraordinary knowledge and technology, he appeared godlike to early humans, but he was ultimately a complex, flawed individual, driven by both wisdom and personal desires. Enki's compassion for humanity often brought him into conflict with his half-brother Enlil, highlighting a fundamental difference in priorities. While Enlil valued order and obedience, Enki championed growth, freedom, and the nurturing of human potential. This empathy led Enki to advocate for humanity, even when it contradicted the directives of other Anunnaki beings from Nibiru, Orion, and Sirius. His expertise in genetic engineering and civilization building was balanced by his own ambitions, and his legacy became one of mixed fortunes. Though he provided humanity with wisdom, his actions also introduced complexities and moral dilemmas that people would have to resolve on their own. Among humans, those with significant traces of Anunnaki heritage are most often descended from Enki's lineage. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to our channel for more ancient myths and astral legends. Please check our references in description for further research on this topic. May the eternal light forever guide your path.
この中からおかげの名を継ぐ者も出るやもしれんの。人生ただ一度じゃ。無理な道を選ぶこともない。好きに生き、好きに死んでも構わん。今回はその優しさが適任拘束時の仇となったと見ておる。そもそもお主は昔から心優しい性格じゃったからの。
お前のことだ。何か一つでも敵の情報をつかめば策の一つくらい浮かぶだろうな。1対1でその時間を作れないなら仲間を頼れ。
無駄だって結論に至ったとこっすよ。
お前の状況判断と分析力は木の葉でも屈指のものだ。俺たちが戦う理由、その本当の意味がわからなければまだまだお前を前衛に出すわけにはいかないな。
準備できた？
行くよ、鹿丸。
ああ。
無秩序から秩序を形作り、それを保つための大切な要だった。子供たちを守り、無駄な争いを避け、平和を実現するものだった。
さっきチャクラがくっついてお前の過去が見えた。あんたと俺は、俺たちも火影目指したのも一緒だ。本当にそっくりだ。なんで急に俺なんかの自分に嘘をつくようなやつは嫌いだ。
望んでも届かないものだな。
そう簡単にいくか。俺たちの生きてる間にできることは知れてる。だから託していかねばな。先の者がやってくれる。
相変わらず甘いな。
この葉の紡を駒に例えるのか。俺は桂馬だからな。
なんだそりゃ。
アスマンがそう言ってた。
お前の性格をよく分かってやがったな、アスマのやつも。なら玉は誰に当たる？
この葉を担うこれからの子供たち、それが玉さ。
そうだ、忍びの時代は終わる。
だとしても俺は